Good morning, kindergarten friends. It's Miss Rice here. Hope you had a wonderful holiday weekend, 4-day break, and ready to get back into your reading and your learning. And before we continue our lesson on weather, today we're going to talk about seasons. Let's check out our weather. Remember, we've been observing the weather and documenting it so that we can graph and see how many days was sunny and how many days was the wind's blowing, and how many days was rainy. So let's look at the weather. What do you see? Lots of clouds. So it tells me that today is going to be cloudy. Well, let's look at Paisley's holding our calendar. So let's look and see what the weather was like over the weekend. All right, so on Friday we were out of school, so Miss Rice went ahead and observed the weather over the weekend, and it was sunny and kind of windy on Friday. Saturday was sunny, but now Sunday was rainy and windy, and we had lots of storms. And then yesterday it was partly sunny. There was clouds and sunshine. And then today, April the 14th, well, we see lots of clouds and some wind. So I hope that you've got your calendar done. If not, you can take this time to pause the video and get caught up. And we'll continue with our observations tomorrow. All right, so let's head back into the house so that we can work on our lesson for the day. Okay, kindergarten, here we are. We're ready to continue our lesson on weather. I just want to kind of review a little bit from last week. We talked about what weather was. And we talked about how the weather is the condition outside and what we can see and what we feel and how it changes from day to day. So what is weather? Remember, weather is the cold, the warm, the hot. That's the temperature. That tells us what kind of season it is. If it's cold outside, then we know it's probably going to be fall or winter. And if it's warm or hot, we know it's springish or summertime. It's also the sun, the clouds, the rain, the tornadoes, the storms, the wind, and the snow. Those all help us make up the weather. And that's what we feel. That's how we know what the weather conditions are. We also talked last week about the clouds and how the clouds help tell us what the weather was. And there's 3 types of clouds. Remember, there's the cumulus clouds, which are the white fluffy clouds that look like cotton candy, and that means that it's going to be a really fair weather, good time to go on a hike or picnic. We also have the cirrus clouds, which are the wispy, pretty clouds that just float high in the sky all by themselves. And then we have the stratus clouds. Those are like the layers of blankets in the sky. They're usually gray, and we know that there's going to be a lot of rain. We also learned that the cumulus cloud also has the cumulonimbus cloud. These are the thunderstorm clouds. They're big, they're gray, and that's where most of our rain and stuff comes from. So that brings us to the seasons, how the weather affects our seasons. And we all know that there's 4 seasons, and we've talked about this in class before. Today we're just going to talk about 2 of those seasons, spring and summer. And we said that weather is what we feel outside and how things look, and it changes from day to day. And when the weather starts to change, the seasons start to change. So let's look at our 4 seasons. First, we've got spring and we have summer. So here on spring, what do you see? Yes, see clouds and sun, and it looks like that tree is starting to bloom and there's flowers starting to grow. And then the summer, I see the beach, Miss Rice's favorite place to be. And that's when it's warm and hot outside and we can go swimming and everything. So let's talk about spring. What is spring. What do we feel and see in the springtime? How does it affect the weather? Well, in the spring, there's lots of rain and it's windy. And we've seen a lot of that lately. And we know that when the nights start getting really cool, but during the morning when we wake up, it's kind of cool outside. But then as the day goes along, it gets warmer. And we start wanting to take off our jackets and put on our short sleeves. And sometimes we wear shorts. And this is telling us that it's springtime. And it's really going to start warming up soon. And we know it's spring because we look around and the rain helps the trees bloom and the flowers bloom and everything turns green and beautiful. And then, like I said, the nights are cool and the mornings are cool, but the days, they all warm up. And in the springtime, we want to wear lots of rain. We have to wear our rain boots and our raincoat because there's lots of rain. And some of the fun things we can do is fly our kites and plant gardens. But remember, spring is normally the stormy season. And baby animals are born. And guess what? I have a surprise. Oh, Sunday, we have an outside cat, and she had one baby that we know of. And I will show that baby to you in just a little bit, because in springtime is when the baby animals start to get born, and the birds lay their eggs and they hatch, and we start seeing all the insects come out. And we'll learn more about that later on in the coming weeks. So we know that it's spring now because we can feel that it's cool in the mornings, but in the afternoons it starts warming up, but the nights get really cold. And it's been raining a lot. And over the weekend we had some storms, and in some of the surrounding states they had tornadoes, and we've had some really high winds and thunderstorms. But that's typical of spring. That lets us know that the weather's changing and that new things are coming and everything's blooming. And when we look outside, we see that the flowers are blooming and we see that the trees are turning green again. And that's part of the weather. That's part of the change. And now let's talk summer. How do we know that summer's coming? Well, towards the end of spring, it starts getting really hot. And the nights are starting to warm up and start getting hot. And we hear lots of insects at night. So that's telling us that the season's changing, that the weather's starting to change. And so it's becoming summer. And in summer, it's very hot. We have lots and lots of sunshine. We have a few storms and it rains just to kind of keep things wet and not real dry. And in the summertime, my favorite time, we can go to the beach, we get to go to the lake, we get to go swimming. And that's all because the weather has gotten warmer and gotten hot. And it's warmed everything up and the water's getting warm. And we can wear shorts outside because it's too hot to wear pants. We can wear swimsuits and our flip-flops and sandals. And one thing about summer, though, is we can get sunburned. So we really have to be careful. And we have to watch the sun and make sure we wear sunblock because we don't want to get burned. So we know that the weather changes from spring to summer because it gets hot and it gets warm. And then we see less rain because in the springtime it's lots of rain, lots of storms, cool nights, warm days, and then it starts getting warmer and warmer during the night. And during the day it gets hotter, and that tells me that the seasons are changing. It's changing from spring to summer. And remember, summer's hot, and it just gets hotter and hotter, and then towards the end of summer it doesn't get as hot, and that's telling me that it's changing to a new season, which brings us to the next season that we will be talking about tomorrow. Give you a little hint. Everything starts cooling off again at night. The days aren't as cool. Can you think of what that season is? Put those thinking caps on. You're right, fall. So tomorrow we're going to talk about fall and how fall, the weather helps it change from fall to winter. So just a little rundown again. Remember, the weather is what we observe outside. It's the change from day to day. One day it may be rainy, and the next day it may be sunny, or it might be rainy in the morning when we wake up, but by the end of the day it's sunny and warm outside. And that's springtime. That's typical spring. But we need all that rain and we need the different weather for everything to bloom and for the new babies to come along. And so, like I said, I'm going to show you our new baby kitten, and I will leave you with that. And then tomorrow, like I said, we'll talk about fall and winter. So what I want you to do today is I want you to think about things that you do in the summertime, things that you do in spring. And I want you to get your writing journals out, and I want you to write one thing that you like to do in the springtime. Remember, we can fly kites. Lots of people go hiking just because it's starting to cool off or get warm. One of my favorite things to do in the springtime is plant gardens or start planting new flowers. And then I want you to tell me one thing you like about the summer, which we all know Miss Rice's is going to definitely be go to the beach or the lake. I love the water, so love sitting out in the sunshine and feeling the heat on my face. So that's what I would like for you to do today, is get your writing journal and give me one thing you in the springtime and one thing in the summer that you like to do, and draw a picture for me. All right, guys, I'm going to show you our new baby. Okay, so I told you about our outside cat having a baby, and here is, hold on, here is her baby, and she is, or he is 3 days old. And see, that's what happens when in the springtime lots of newborn babies are born. All right, we're gonna let Paisley take it back up to its mama. All right, boys and girls, so how does weather affect our seasons? Well, we know that the weather changes. In the springtime, it's more rainy, it's cooler at night, and it warms up during the day. It gets warmer, and we know that the rain, we have to have the rain to make everything bloom. And then in the summertime, as the season starts to change, it starts getting a little bit warmer at the end of spring, and then in the summertime it starts getting warmer, and by the middle of summer it's very hot and usually dry. There's not a lot of rain. Every once in a while we'll have rain and storms, and it'll the sun shines all the time. And then we know that that's how the weather starts changing, and then at the end of summer it starts cooling back off, and that's when we go into the next season that we will be talking about tomorrow. So we know we've got spring and summer, so between now and tomorrow I want you to think about the next 2 seasons. What are the other 2 seasons? Don't say anything, just think about it. Put those thinking caps on, and we will talk about it tomorrow. So until then, continue reading, boys and girls, and I'll see you tomorrow.